I hereby declare the 2020 General Assembly for open. A very warm welcome to all who are joining this first ever virtual IASP General Assembly. The current pandemic has impacted millions of people, families and enterprises, but also organizations like IASP. Today I want to thank the Executive Committee, the Council, for being ready to take a very swift and difficult decision when we saw the pandemic began to evolve, moving the World Conference to 2021. I also want to thank the staff for working so hard to implement this decision. We all hope it will be possible to meet face-to-face in Amsterdam 2021, but we have, unfortunately, to be prepared for the worst-case scenario. During the recent turbulent time when our staff had to work from home, they managed not only to reorganize the physical World Congress, but they also developed and implemented a completely new and innovative educational activity, the IASP virtual series on pain and expo, which has just been launched. I'm impressed and thankful on behalf of IASP for this and the many more achievements. I also want to use this opportunity to thank our many sponsors for supporting our virtual expo and for their continued support to our educational activities and patient-related activities. Today, the General Assembly will run for approximately 1 hour and 15 minutes. It will be recorded and be available from the homepage together with our presentations. The link will be presented at the end of the meeting. A General Assembly normally allows only a few questions, so we have decided that any questions you may have can be sent to us. And we will respond in due time, and the email will likewise be presented at the end of the meeting. Please switch on slide sharing, Yolanda. Thank you very much. I would like to start remembering the deceased IASP members. Ron Melsack was a founding member of IASP. He served IASP for many years. In the mid-60s, he and Pat Wall presented the gate control theory and thereby kick-started the global interest in pain as an emerging field. Ron Melsack was instrumental in promoting pain sciences, and throughout his life, he continued to contribute significantly to the field. Next slide. We have from our chapters received information about the following deceased members. Let's honor the deceased members and a moment of silence. Thank you very much. Next slide. The agenda will be as presented here. We hope to stick within the time limit of 1 hour and 15 minutes. And as I said, the General Assembly will be recorded, available afterwards, and our presentations will likewise be available. Today I will present the presidential report, what we have achieved for the last couple of years. I'll provide a lot of statistics and numbers, which you most likely will not remember a few hours from now. But I want you to remember why we, as IASP members, do what we do. When we used to meet face-to-face at our conferences, our name badges create a sense of belonging. And we feel attached. We enjoy being among friends and colleagues who believe what we believe, who work for the same vision. In the current virtual environment, it is important to try to maintain this collegial feeling of belonging. We do research to discover fundamental aspects of the pain system. We care for and treat pain patients. And we all, patients, educators, clinicians, researchers are working together for pain relief throughout the world. That's why we do what we do. And despite all the statistics, this is what I hope you'll remember from the General Assembly today. When I took over the presidency 2 years ago in Boston, I had not really foreseen that contingency plans and mitigation plans would be my focus for the last half year. Now, when I retrospectively look at the last 6 months, the innovation and enthusiasm shown by our volunteers and staff have just been impressive. The IASP has shown to be agile, adaptable, and a fast mover. I'm also sure that the developed virtual IASP educational environment and expo will remain for the benefit of our members and further to position IASP as the leading global organization in the field of pain. Next slide, please. At my inauguration lecture in Boston 2 years ago, I provided a set of operational goals. And they were all based on the results from a membership survey, which we conducted. So thanks to our member for providing this important feedback to guide IASP's strategy. The theme I selected was IASP Connecting, as you will see on the right side of the screen. And 3 overall operational goals were formulated. Enhance the membership value through new programs, services, and support. Extend IASP advocacy and reach globally. And enhance IASP financial stability through development of new possibilities and new revenue. These goals were presented to Council during a constructive process. We evaluated each of them, and together we developed working groups and strategic actions around these goals. Next slide, please. Next slide, thank you. And this is a result of all the work we have done with the Executive Committee, Council, working groups and task forces, and the staff. Next slide. The first plan or the first milestone was to establish an additional pain school and pain camps. What we actually achieved was we established 2 new pain schools, one in Europe and one in Australia. We also organized and have planned pain camps in Latin America, in Asia, and in Africa. Some of them are to come. Next slide, please. The next milestone, under the same goal, more value for members, was to increase opportunities for members to get involved in the organization. I actually appointed more than 200 new volunteers on committees, working groups, and task forces. Furthermore, we established a number of presidential task forces, one on cannabis and cannabinoid analgesia, the Global Alliance of Pain Patient Advocates, I'll come back to that, International Classification of Function, the ICF, the Sick Governance Review, the Virtual Identity and Logo Redesign, a 50 years anniversary task force, and more recently, a COVID-19 and pain task force to provide timely updates. Furthermore, we established a Council task force on the global burden of pain in order to launch a campaign later on when we do have the data. The next milestone was actually to increase members. But unfortunately, due to the current situation, we did not realize the increase in membership which we normally see during a conference year. However, we have reached out to other organizations and we have coordinated marketing and membership efforts. We also implemented a 2 years possibility to pay your dues. So you have actually paid your dues for 2 years, which actually increased our retention rate to 74%, which is per association standard, very high. Next. The next milestone was actually to increase and diversify sources of revenue to support programs. So over the last 2 years, we have managed to raise more than $700,000 for expanding our activities and programs. We have initiated a lot of additional educational activities, some of them virtual, some of them face-to-face. We also managed to establish the Pain Educational Resource Center, the PERC, which is our new virtual platform. Next slide. So PERC will provide you with updated information and continued learning. And I will mention a little bit later that we actually achieved also to get CME accreditation. And as you all know, we have recently established the IASP virtual series on pain on Expo. And at this moment, we have 32 workshops registered. We have more than 450 posters, and I'm pretty impressed by some of those posters and the way they're presented. I'm very happy that we have the GABA to organize sessions, and also we have industry-related symposia. So there will be 6 GABA sessions so far, and up to now we have scheduled 5 industry symposia. We have also expanded our presence at the social media, and we have thousands of followers on these different channels. The last couple of years, the Global Year has been very successful in order to run and execute webinars. And we have had thousands of attendees to these webinars. And the last thing, which is just about to come, is the redesign of our entire homepage. And we have actually also redesigned our logo. And this will be launched later on this year. Next slide. Some of you may remember that we circulated a ballot here in August with some of the suggestions and proposals for this General Assembly. We received the feedback, and the following have been approved. We established SARPs. We formalized the agreement with IASP. We approved the new Haiti chapter, and we have approved 3 new special interest groups this year. Furthermore, we have been working on trying to develop a federation of Arab chapters and also African chapters. Unfortunately, that had been delayed a little bit due to the many travel bans in recent months. Next slide. So we are now coming to goal number 2, which was related to advocacy. The first milestone was to strengthen partnership with chapters and SIGs. We received in the past some criticism about how IASP is actually interacting with both the chapters and the SIGs. So we have done a whole lot to develop a roadmap for chapter and SIG interaction and their engagement and their possibility to also to utilize our new virtual platforms. This has been approved by Council and the implementation has started. The next milestone was to expand the reach of the Pain Research Forum and Relief. And I'm very happy that we have strengthened that by expanding the editorial board. And Ted Price, as the editor later on today, will provide you with a detailed update on all the achievements which has been achieved. We have had thousands of attendees to the various webinars, and the integration of PRF has now been completed into the IASP organization. The next milestone was to increase patient engagement activities and more fully involve patient advocates. And I think I'm very proud, and I think we should also be very happy that we managed to get an organization now which includes patients. So we have established the Global Alliance of Pain Patient Advocates, the so-called GABA. And we have ensured that they are integrated now into IASP operations, like the Scientific Program Committee, the Local Arrangement Committee. We have a patient forum. They are represented on task forces, and we have patient-related Congress sessions. I'm very proud that we managed to get the approval from Council and the executive help to get that moved forward. So I think we should be very happy and proud about this major step. Next slide. Another list of activities which has happened under the goal number 2 is that we actually approved and promoted the revised definition of pain. It was started way back by Judith Turner. We have facilitated the WHO approval of the chronic pain classification in ICD-11, a major milestone. We have recently highlighted the 10 years anniversary of the Declaration of Montreal, and a position paper and a statement paper on cannabinoids and pain is just about to be released. Furthermore, we have several presidential task forces and council task forces working, and the data are still to come. Next slide. Finally, a little bit about the financial sustainability, which was a very important feature. Alan Finlay will later on today provide you with all the details. But initially, I will say that the milestone we had, that the IASP budget should break even over a 2 years period from 2019 to 20, we have actually managed even to generate a surplus now in 2020. This is the first time in over a decade. And I think IASP again should be very proud of that achievement. The Finance Committee, the Treasurer, and the staff. We have raised more than $1 million in external funding, $1 million in external funding over the last couple of years. We also had a milestone that we should try to explore options for online education and training. And we actually managed to get CME accreditation, which is a difficult task to achieve. But the office managed to get CME accreditation, which can now be applied to PERC and also to our virtual series on pain. And this will actually, in the future also, be a possible stream for new revenues. Next slide. So what else has happened? Well, as I said initially, we moved the World Conference to 2021. We hope we will have a physical World Conference, or maybe a hybrid model, who knows. But actually we have combated the financial issues which would be related to cancellation of a conference by implementing this innovative 6-month virtual series on pain and expo. So we have actually managed the financial situation by establishing new ways of generating revenue for programs and activities. We also, this year, appointed a new CEO. We appointed a search committee led by past President Judith Turner. We engaged a search committee to assist the search. We vetted dozens of candidates. We interviewed 8 highly qualified candidates over 2 sessions. And unanimously, we appointed Colleen Eubanks as our new CEO. We're very pleased and happy to have Colleen as a new CEO. And in addition to that, we have actually significantly enhanced customer satisfaction by reorganizing the office operations. So we receive a lot of positive input, and I used to say that our dream team at the office is doing really well. I had demanded a lot from our staff and volunteers during my presidency, but together we have achieved convincing results, and we should be proud of these achievements and those achievements. And I think they will impact IASP for the future. The highlights as presented today are in summary: established the Global Alliance of Pain Patient Advocates, developed strategic actions for chapters and SIG, engagement, and provided new educational opportunities for them to utilize. We developed professional CME accreditation for our educational platforms. We turned around IASP's financial situation and enhanced significantly our external funding. We enhanced the customer satisfaction in relation to our office operation. We approved the revised definition of pain. We facilitated the ICD-11 by WHO. And the cannabis statement and position papers are just about to come. In addition, the task forces were installed and the results are yet to come in relation to the global burden of pain, IASP's 50 years anniversary, the visual identity and logo redesign, and how to use ICF better in the field of pain and the combination with ICD-11, and more recently, a task force to provide timely updates on COVID-19 and pain. Finally, we have appointed a new competent CEO, and we're confident that Colleen will successfully manage IASP for the years to come. 2 years as president elapsed very quickly. It has been a privilege, a pleasure to work with our many volunteers and the close, constructive collaboration with the staff and the executive committee and the council. I truly enjoyed it. Finally, thanks to Suzanne. And I think I can do something now, Suzanne. You didn't expect that, but I can do something. No, yeah. So what is happening now? Here we are. That's Suzanne. I want to thank Suzanne, who has been my professional administrative support here at the university from day one. Without her help, it would not have been possible for me to fulfill my administrative roles as the IASP president. I'm back. So recently, I read a small book written in 1212 by a Buddhist monk, Kamo no Kamai. The book is named Hojuki. Translated, the 10-foot square hut. Because of the many disasters which hit Japan during this period, the monk decided voluntarily to lock down and isolate in a small hut in the forest to avoid further danger. Similarly to what many of us have been forced to do in this year. One day the monk was sitting there at the river bank in isolation and philosophized about life and the world around him. He then wrote, "The flowing river never stops, and yet the water never stays the same." Written 800 years ago under a condition very similar to what we have recently experienced. I think this sentence nicely reflects what IASP has recently been through. But IASP keeps moving, but yet the content will never stay the same. So after all the statistics and hard data, which you'll soon forget, I want you to remember why we do what we do as IASP members. We share the same vision, working together for pain relief throughout the world. That is what is bonding. So thank you so very much for your attention. I'll now hand over to our treasurer, Alan Finley.
Good day and good evening to everybody. It's been a huge pleasure and privilege to serve as your treasurer and as a member of the executive committee over the last 4 years. I've learned a huge amount and I've really enjoyed every part of it. Could I have the next slide? As many of you are aware, our budgets over the years have fluctuated depending on whether it was a Congress year or a non-Congress year. Generally, operating revenue in surplus in Congress years and significant deficit in non-Congress years. These graphs are a little misleading in that many of the expenses for Congress occurred in the previous year. And in addition, we changed the membership accounting system in 2018 to meet proper accounting principles so that membership revenue is spread over the term of the membership. Nevertheless, as Lars has mentioned, our goal was to achieve a balanced or surplus budget over a 2-year period by 2019-2020, and ideally to achieve a balanced budget in a non-Congress year. Next slide. For your interest, this shows the ways that we achieve revenue in the association. The gray bars, as you could understand, are the revenue from events, primarily from the Congress. And so that's exclusively in Congress years and is a major part of our overall revenue. In addition, the pale blue bars at the bottom show the royalties from our publisher of the Pain Journal, which has been a steady and significant part of our income as well. There's contributions from and grants from outside sources, and membership dues play a significant role. Investment income is shown there, but doesn't take a role in our operating budget because it has just been reinvested into the investments. Next slide. Expenses mirror the same pattern. The gray bars are the expenses from Congress. The pale blue bars are pain schools and camps and other projects. The green ones are the cost for general management, administration, and maintenance of our condominium office space. Next slide. We have a policy that requires us to maintain a reserve investment fund that is at least equal to 6 months of operating funds averaged over 2 years, the non-Congress year and the Congress year. Current reserve requirement is $2.6 million. In addition, our portfolio has to be balanced between a variety of funds and across a variety of countries to maintain a secure investment, but one which also has potential for growth. Next slide. In fact, our investment reserve has significantly exceeded our minimum requirement, which is a good thing because that requirement is pretty conservative or pretty minimal. The excess of investments has allowed us to be comfortable in the face of an international catastrophe, such as perhaps a pandemic. And in addition, gives us the confidence to proceed with new programs and projects that we feel are very important to the organization, such as the virtual series and expo that's on right now, even before we've achieved a specific funding for it. Next slide. Our investments have grown over the years. And if you look to the right end of that graph, you'll see that significant little dip, which was in March and April of this year, of course, as the stock market fell in the face of the pandemic. By rebalancing our stock portfolio and converting some bonds to stocks that were at a lower price, we were able to, in fact, shrug off this whole experience financially, and our investment portfolio has returned basically to where it would have been even without the pandemic. So we're quite pleased about that. Next slide. Just a quick view of this. The chart on the left shows our asset allocation balanced pretty equally between taxable bonds, which are quite secure, and equities, which have the potential for growth, and across a wide range of types of investment and markets around the world. Next slide. So 2020 and 2021, as you're aware, we underwent a significant rebudgeting task in June, July to reflect postponement of the Congress and implementation of our virtual series. Despite the pandemic, we've actually budgeted a strong net surplus for 2020, which is technically a non-Congress year, and then a slight surplus in 2021, depending on what happens with an in-person Congress. That 2021 budget will, of course, be reviewed and revised in November and December as we learn more about our plans for next year. In addition, I was very pleased we were able to set up sequestered investment funds to protect the Benica Fellowship and the Congress Awards in perpetuity, so that those awards are being paid out of investment income each year rather than out of operating budget. So they don't come into play in the operating expenses at all. And they're secure by being maintained in 3-year cycles with conservative funds, so that we never have to worry about whether we can afford to support these very signature offerings of our association. Next slide. So we've initially achieved the goal of a 2-year break-even budget in 2019-2020 with the original 2020 budget. But now we've achieved a break-even budget in a non-Congress year. And despite adding many new programs, new camps, the PERC, and creating the virtual expo, as Lars has described. Next slide. This is the budget for 2020, showing a $75,000 surplus. And that's including expenses for some planned travel that now probably won't occur, so our surplus may be even greater. 2021, we've got a small surplus, but that will, of course, be under advisement. Last slide, I think. We've instituted a new financial and budgeting system, which gives us accurate data and information in essentially real time, and provides the staff in the office with detailed information about their own projects and the expenses of their individual departments, so that that can be tracked from month to month and allow for really a much more efficient planning and a financial committee process that's limited to 1 or 2 meetings instead of 4 or 5, and a much more efficient process. Finally, I'll say that I'm pleased to say that IASP is solvent and stable despite the current uncertainty. I would also absolutely be remiss if I did not thank those who have taught me so much over the last 4 years. Matthew Duva initially when I started, and more especially Colleen Eubanks when she came on as COO and now CEO, her team of Carla Jimenez and Cy Trier, and all the others in the staff, especially Rachel Heiner, and with respect to the Congress, and so many wonderful people who work in our office who we should be really proud of. I'd like to thank you all again for allowing me to serve as the treasurer over the last 4 years. I look forward to maintaining my participation in ISP and to seeing us move onward and upward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Alan. And I think Alan should be very proud, together with the staff, what they have achieved. As I said, it's the first time in a decade we have generated a surplus. And under this very difficult condition, I think this is a major achievement. So thank you so much for your service, Alan, and we hope to utilize all your expertise also in the future. Next on the agenda is Colleen Eubanks, our new CEO, and will provide us with an update. Colleen.
Great. Thank you, Lars, and thank you, Alan. I just want to start out by saying what a privilege it is to be ISP's CEO. This is literally my dream job that I've been working for much of my life. So I appreciate the executive committee and the search committee's confidence in me, and it's a real honor to be in this position. So with that, I'll start my presentation. I just wanted to give you a quick look at the ISP staff. Blue is probably the color of the day when most of us had our pictures taken. In addition to working with just tremendous dedicated volunteers, as Lars and Ellen both referenced, we have an amazing staff team. They really are innovative and thoughtful, and they work very, very hard, and they're all very, very dedicated to the mission of ISP. So, and I know a lot of our volunteers and members have an opportunity to work with them in a variety of ways, and we are very fortunate to have such a tremendous staff. Next slide, please. I just wanted to quickly talk about ISP's been recognized in a number of associations over the last few months for particularly the ICD-11 project, the classification of diseases and the recognition by the World Health Organization. The American Society of Association Executives awarded us a silver award in their prestigious annual awards that they do, recognizing associations for advocacy and work making a difference in the world. And then actually also, I think quite appropriately for ISP, since we are a global organization, not just an American organization, we are finalists. ISP is a finalist in the European Association Executives Association Awards for the same work for Effective Voice of the Year. So back to Lars's comment about how well we've done in advocacy over the past couple of years. And then humbly, I am also a finalist in the Executive Director of the Year category by that association. Next slide. So I just quickly wanted to go over some operational improvements. Lars and Ellen have touched on these. I just wanted to go into a little bit more detail. We reorganized our finance department with the hire of a comptroller in February of 2019. That was based on the findings of some audits and some just reorganization we needed to do in the finance department to start adding some efficiencies to our work. When I was appointed interim CEO in January, we appointed a part-time temporary who now will continue with us, CFO, to oversee the work of the finance department in February 2020. And she implemented a new financial system that incredibly streamlines our workflows and has increased efficiency. And as a part of that, we implemented a new budgeting system to replace an outdated, very complex system. And anyone who's volunteered on the finance committee for the last couple of years, we went from a series of 4 meetings that lasted 2 hours each to 1 2-hour meeting to get to that budget that Ellen just presented to you. So it has made a huge difference in terms of both volunteer and staff time. Next slide, please. In terms of administration, we hired a manager of global programs a little over a year ago. She replaced a contractor who worked on awards, projects, that sort of thing. And bringing that position in-house has made a huge difference in terms of streamlining the way we process award applications, grant applications. She manages the GAPA project, like anything that frankly is not under education and events, she is involved in, and it has made a very big difference. As I mentioned, we did not replace my prior position, Chief Operating Officer, as I hired a part-time Chief Financial Officer to take over those duties. We hired a new Director of Marketing and Engagement a few months ago to replace our previous director, as she did not return after maternity leave, and she's slightly reorganized her department and has really focused on working on the revised definition of pain, marketing for our virtual program, and we'll be working very closely with the Cannabis Task Force on the communications around our statement on cannabinoids that will come out later this year. Next slide, please. As was noted, I served as the interim CEO after Matthew's departure in January. We obviously, like the rest of the world, had to rapidly and quickly change operations when the pandemic hit. So we moved to totally virtual in early March. We actually did it before the rest of the country shut down due to the pandemic. We did do a staff survey in June to assess, and we'll continue to do these where the staff is, but there is really strong support for continuing to work remotely. The staff reports that they have a better work, family, personal lifestyle by being able to do that. They're not worried about contacting COVID, and everybody is working extraordinarily well together and extraordinarily hard, and has been very, very productive since March when we did this. I have worked very closely with Andrew Rice, who's the chair of the SPC, and with the executive committee to mitigate any financial implications of having to move the World Congress and making those decisions And I have worked very closely with Sarah Wheeler, who's our Director of Industry Relations, to develop alternative funding mechanisms. And I wanted to just speak briefly about that a little bit. As Lars noted, we've raised almost $1 million over the last couple of years in alternative funding. And so we've had a tremendous amount of support from industry. And I know that there are a number of people who have reservations about industry's role in working with associations, especially those like ours that are truly focused on studying and solving the problem of pain. But I do want to say very clearly, our work with industry is in full compliance with with the industry codes of conduct. And basically, we have two categories of funding. We get support for our World Congress and the virtual series with exhibit booths, industry symposia, where they provide the latest updates from the industry side. And then we also get support for general programs from unrestricted or from specific educational initiatives, which cover costs, and they are independently developed by IASP, a working group or a task force within IASP, and have industry has no input into the content or the say of those programs. For example, some of the projects that have been supported by those grants are pain schools, pain camps, and some educational series. We do not work with industry for any sort of advocacy campaigns or any sort of policy issues. And we have been very successful in funding a variety of projects with the partnership of industry and the support of industry. And we are seen as a gold standard association by our industry partners in terms of our integrity and compliance issues. So I want to be very clear on that. Next slide, please.
Thank you very much.
And again, thank you very much and I appreciate everybody's support.
Thank you so much, Colleen, for your detailed update. The next point on the agenda is an update from Pain. And Frank, please.
Yes, I'd also like to thank the membership for the opportunity to serve as editor-in-chief of Pain. And it's really a privilege to get a chance to work with so many people across the world on the journal. And the mention of Ron Melzak earlier made me think of the really giants in the field, Pat Wall, Ron Dubner, Alan Basbaum, who labored so hard along with their editorial boards to get Pain where it is now. Next slide, please. So I want to start by thanking our editorial board staff. I think we have Ted Price as I think one of the speakers today, but all these people are superb leaders in their field and have worked very diligently, more than 40 hours a week. I get emails from them often on the weekend to handle manuscripts, so we're working very hard. A special thanks to the folks in the central office, particularly Sally Weiss and Anna Lombardo, who handle the day-to-day operations, and many of you have submitted to Pain know their names. And also the support we've received both from Matthew, our former CEO, and Colleen. Next slide, please. A special thanks in recognition of a couple transitions. One is that we've recently added Michelle Sterling, who will be handling manuscripts in the rehabilitation area as part of the clinical section. And a special thanks to Chris Eggleston, who handled the psychology section of Pain for years and was very instrumental in shaping not only that section, but many of the policies and directions that Pain has been taking. I'd also like to thank Andrea Giovannucci, who was on the editorial staff and has now taken the position of Manager of Education at IASP. She did a superb job. Next slide. A couple of updates here. One is the number of submissions continue to increase, and we've actually seen a substantial increase in the current year despite the pandemic. And we're on track to have about 1,700 manuscripts submitted this year, which is the highest ever. Our time from submission to first decision, which is a metric that matters a lot to investigators who submit, is a very respectable 23 days. And that means you'll get a turnaround on a decision within about 3 weeks, which compares favorably with other top-tier journals. The journal website is also doing quite well with an increase in website usage each year. Next slide, please. And as many of you know, we now include all metric scores. If you want to go to the IASP Pain Login website and search for any article that has been published, you can get extensive information on the online attention that each article receives using this color-coded framework that many of you are familiar with. And so it mentions things like tweets and blogs and Facebook postings and so on. Have next slide. The impact factor this last year went down some, and I should mention that all the pain journals that was true for. Nevertheless, we remain the top journal among the pain research journals, and also our 5-year impact remains quite high, which means if you publish an article on pain, it's likely to continue to remain highly cited over a 5-year period. Next slide, please. I just want to remind listeners that we have 2 special features that are now being edited by Ted Price. One is called Pain Picture, that's on the left. It's basically a slide, a downloadable slide that illustrates a key concept or principle from pain, and it could be either a basic science concept or principle or an applied science principle. And these are quite helpful in teaching and so on. So if you're interested in submitting one of those, please contact us. We also have a new infographic, and we select over the course of the year a number of papers become a subject of an infographic that can be used in education of the public as well as education of professionals. And they've been very well received. Could I have the next slide, please? We continue to publish timely topical reviews. These are by invitation, and if you're interested in submitting one, please contact us. Fiona Blythe is the editor for this section, and you can see from this slide a number of different recent examples. We've published 60 of these topical reviews since 2017. They are among the most highly cited papers. And I think a lot of that has to do with their very timely nature. Next slide, please. We've spent a lot of time over the last year addressing issues of open science and transparency. These are key issues not only for the field, but for public scientific publications in general. And in response to guidelines and different articles that have been published recently, we completely overhauled our open science and transparency standards. We reviewed them and made sure that they were current. And you will see if you go to the information for authors section of Pain Now, there is a table that highlights our stance on a variety of standards for basic science trials, for clinical trials, for improving the description of clinical interventions, and so on. And this is important information for those who submit because you will need to adhere to these standards when you submit a paper. I do want to remind all listeners on this Zoom call that Pain is compliant with the open access requirements of funding agencies across the world. Next slide. So to summarize, I think Pain has done very well over the past years, and particularly over the past year, which has been a challenging one for all of us. And that is thanks to many, many people who have served not only on the editorial board and the editorial staff, but also as reviewers, as individuals submitting, as people writing letters to the editors, and so on. It remains, I think, a top-tier journal, and I think the directions we're moving on and are very important ones for the field of pain as well as scientific publication in general.
Thank you so very much, Frank, and thanks for your excellent leadership of IASP's flagship. I think in the future we're going to face issues with the open access. The royalties will most likely drop, so there is a task for IASP in the future to ensure that we counteract that drop in income from the royalties. The next speaker is David Janetsky, who will give us an update on our open access journal pain report. Please do, David. Muted.
Hi, can I have the next slide, please? So Pain Reports is a young journal still struggling to find its place. The main feature is being open access, which means people have to pay for publishing. The plus side is that you get more exposure, but this is a difficulty in getting papers to be submitted to the journal. We look at a wide scope on pain. We encourage developing world submissions, and we encourage young investigators. Next slide, please. We publish all sorts of articles, including brief reports, reviews, meta-analysis, meeting proceedings, and so on. Next, please. A brief look at history. We published our first issue in July 2016. So this is the beginning of our 5th year now. We were indexed in PubMed Central and in Scopus. And the main task as far as indexing is now to be indexed in the impact factor by Clarivate. Next slide, please. This is a difficult task. Not too many people are aware of the process, but Clarivate has made it much more difficult than it used to be. And currently you have to go through the purple emerging sources citation index first, and only after being there, you're entitled to be considered for the real one with impact factor. So this is a process that is still going to take 1 or 2 or maybe more additional years, and we hope to be there at the end. Next slide, please. Our publisher has calculated a mock impact factor for us based on the numbers of articles and of course the numbers of citation, and I'm really happy to announce that our mock factor is 3.35, which is fairly high. My good surprise was to see that it is so high for a young journal, only 4 years out there. This puts us in a nice location right after the big 3, Pain, Journal of Pain, and the European Journal of Pain, and before many other journals that are in the field and are there for more years than we are there. And by the rules of Clarivate, if you are at the upper 50% of your category, and we are located number 11 out of 32, we are most likely to be included in the white list and eventually get the impact factor in due time. Next slide, please. A few numbers. We have a little more than 500 articles submitted through the 4 years that we are out there. We have about 34% of rejection. As a young journal, we are an entry enhancer more than gatekeepers. Hopefully with time we'll be more gatekeepers and entry enhancers as we are now. Next one, please. You can see the numbers of visits are growing between 2016 and 2019, and you can see the change in the right hand side between the first half of 2019 and the first half of 2020. Next, please. As a way of mitigating the difficulties of publishing in a journal which demands payment and does not have an impact factor, we generated a list of special issues. You can see the titles. Some of them are out already, some are in process. They get nice exposure, nice attention from the community, and we will probably keep on with our relevant special issues as long as we are not indexed and not get a spontaneous high inflow of articles. Next slide, please. And this is the time to thank everybody that is involved, the section editors, which are quite busy working on our articles, the editors of the special issue, and the editorial office, Sally, Anna, and Liz Dersey. It has been a wonderful and a very rewarding trip for me to launch and start this journal, and I look forward to keep developing it to the right position it should deserve and get in the tree of the pain professional journals. Thank you.
Thank you so very much, David. And as you all can hear, chasing the impact factor is the major goal for the future, but I'm pretty sure that it will be awarded at the end. The next speaker is Ted Price, who took over chair as editorial board for PRF, and as said, a lot of things has happened. So Ted, please.
Thank you, Lars. It's my pleasure to be able to tell you guys about the progress at Pain Research Forum over the last 2 years. I'm representing Neil Andrews, who's the editor-in-chief, who's done an absolutely fantastic job of growing the Pain Research Forum, and also running Relief, and also the editorial board as a group. It's very, very active and does a really terrific job of guiding this effort. Next slide. So the mission of the Pain Research Forum is to create a virtual meeting place for scientists and clinicians working in the pain field. People involved in PRF come from academia, research institutes, hospitals, medical centers, and from government institutions. The broad goal is to to inform these groups and also to raise the profile of pain research in the biomedical community, as well as at large. That mostly happens through the efforts through Relief. Pain Research Forum was launched in June of 2011 at Harvard Medical School, and then it formally became part of IASP in July of 2017. So we've been a part of IASP now for just more than 3 years. Next slide. So we think Pain Research Forum continues to provide really valuable content and resources to IASP members. First, we provide unbiased editorial independent news coverage. Much of this is written by correspondents that are, in many cases, young investigators that are growing in the field, not only in their scientific and clinical capabilities, but also in their scientific and clinical communication abilities, which is, I think, an important contribution that we're making. We also have an outstanding team of writers led by Neil and Stephanie Sutherland that I think are making a tremendous impact on translating basic findings to the broader community. If you sign up for the Pain Research Forum, you'll get an email every week on our Papers of the Week, which is a really great resource on what is happening in the field. And we have interviews that are online both at PRF and at Relief. We have virtual seminars, I'll get into that a little bit more coming up, and a variety of community features, and that importantly includes job postings and funding opportunities. Next slide, please. So Pain Research Forum has continued to grow. We've had close to 1 million now unique visitors to the site, which I think is really an extraordinary accomplishment. And this continues to grow and grow every year. Next slide. We also, of course, as I mentioned already, have launched Relief, the sister site to the Pain Research Forum, in January 2016. The goal of Relief is really to kind of translate the basic research, basic clinical findings that are reported on Pain Research Forum to a broader audience. And Relief, I think, is really starting to take off now with lots of original writing, plain language summary of research and news, and incorporation of interviews and podcasts. Next slide. So some highlights of some recent highlights for Pain Research Forum and Relief include our expansion of our webinar series. So we used to do this on a monthly, sometimes bi-monthly basis, but since the start of COVID-19 in an effort to kind of keep the community talking to each other, we've expanded this to weekly, and this, I'm happy to report, has been very successful. We've had more than 5,000 attendees live attendees at the 19 webinars that we've had to date, and more than 12,000 people that have viewed the recordings. So I think this is really extraordinary, the amount of attendance we're having for these webinars. If you don't know about this, I would highly encourage you tune in. There will be one this week. We started to do podcasts. The Pain Beat, this is led by Becky Seal at Pitt. We've now released 3 podcasts, and there are many more that will be coming. Pain Beat is available basically anywhere that you get your podcasts. I listen on Spotify, but there's other ways you can get this. And Neil and the team at IASP has been very successful raising funds for Pain Research Forum for us to continue to expand our offerings. We raised $150,000 from the Rita Allen Foundation and $83,000 from the Mayday Fund. Next slide, please. So we have a variety of things coming soon. Of course, our virtual webinars and seminars are going to continue. We'll have a new format called Ask Me Anything that'll start on October 1st. We'll be doing this on a monthly basis. We have data visualizations that are coming to relief in October. We also have a new series of short videos with researchers, clinicians, and pain patients coming to relief. And we will be launching the second cycle of the PRF virtual correspondence program very soon. So if you're interested in participating in this, you still have a couple of days to apply. So please apply if you're interested. Next slide. So we invite you to participate in the Pain Research Forum. There's a number of ways you can do this. Attending virtual seminars. We'd love to hear your suggestions on topics and/or speakers. Feel free to nominate papers for inclusion in the papers of the week. We'd love to have your comments on the website. It's open for comments all the time. Also, if you're interested again in the correspondence program, please do apply. You still have a couple of days left to do that. We're very excited about that program, which is now supported by the Rita Allen Foundation. Please also feel free, if you have other ideas for the site, to share your ideas with us. Next slide. So thank you very much, and I'll pass it back to you, Lars.
Thank you so very much, Ted. We all appreciate your hard work and effort to get the editorial board running. And I also want to express our thanks to Neil for the daily operation. I think the PRF has moved forward substantially. We have many more users, etc. So, and now it's fully integrated into IASP's operation. So thanks a lot to both of you and to the staff for running this program. And the next is, I want to appreciate our honorary members. IASP has a tradition to appoint honorary members at our biennial General Assembly. Honorary members are appointed based on their many years of services to IASP and for their significant contribution to the field of pain. Today, it's my sincere pleasure to announce the following 8 appointed lifelong honorary members as stated on this slide. It is furthermore a pleasure to see that many are still active on committees, task forces, working groups, and IASP look forward to continue the collaboration for the many years to come. So on behalf of IASP, thank you so much for your services and commitment and to help fulfilling our vision. Thank you so much and congratulations. Next slide. We now get to the point where we have to unfortunately say goodbye to somebody, but fortunately we can say hello to others. Next. So I'll just say a few words. Unfortunately, we don't have much time. I could talk for hours for all the contributions our officers and counselors have contributed. I'll start with Alan Finlay, who you just heard a few minutes ago. And actually, Alan made history by delivering a budget not only in balance, but actually with a surplus. Alan can be proud, very proud, together with the staff, to hand over the financially viable IASP to the new treasurer, Michael Robotham. Alan, together with our staff, also completely changed the way the budget are presented to our finance committee. That has resulted in a much more transparent and smooth process. Thank you so much, Alan. Our secretary, Michael, from Australia, is the one suffering most on the executive. Sorry, Michael. we have not been very sensitive to adapt to your time zone. So in the middle of the night, Michael had to keep track on all the decisions, ensure they were accurately noted, at the same time play an active role in our discussions. Hard work, but thank you so much, Michael. And to our immediate past President Judith, I want to particularly thank you for your many years serving IASP and for the many functions you have fulfilled. You have been a significant impact. You have had a significant impact on the development of IASP. For the last 2 years, you have been, honestly speaking, an excellent past president. It has been an honor, and a pleasure, and a privilege for me to work with you. Your institutional memory, your insight has been so valuable, and your focus on the detail has helped and complemented me a lot. Thank you so much, Judith. So after working so close together, we're going to miss you on the executive committee. But during the last call, the executive, Alan, Michael, and Judith, they suggested to establish the Club of Retired IASP Executives. So in a couple of years, I will apply for membership. So I very much hope to be accepted. We also have to say goodbye and thanks to the following 4 counselors. Joao, the president of the Federation in Latin America, has been very active in promoting better pain care in Latin America. Thank you for your service, Joao. Ian Gillan will continue to be very busy with IASP businesses, as he is chairing the scientific committee for the World Conference in Toronto 2022. Ian has in recent years been an excellent advocate for patient engagement within IASP. Thank you so much, Ian. Helen, our representative in Africa, have been active in promoting better pain care in Africa. This work has now resulted in the suggested formation of a new IASP chapter and a new IASP foundation in Africa. Thank you very much for your service, Helen. And Jeff has been excellent in challenging our business as usual, and whenever possible, advocated for the basic scientists' view to ensure proper representation. It has been a real pleasure, Jeff, to discuss with you. Thank you so much for your service. So thanks to all for your contribution to IASP. Next. And we have to say hello and welcome. And for the executive committee, we're going to welcome Kathleen Bushnell as the new president-elect, Michael Robotham as the new treasurer, and Mary Cardoza as our new secretary. All have served IASP for many years, and thanks a lot for taking on a new function for IASP. It's like my sincere pleasure to welcome our new officers. Fiona Blythe, Australia, Margarita Calvo from Chile, Suprani from Thailand, Rumi, South Africa, and Jennifer Stinton from Canada. Looking so very much forward to our collaboration. I will just finish before to say to the new councillors and the new officers, as I said at the last council meeting, and I'm pretty sure that our new colleagues will accept what I said, and I'm going to repeat the quote I used by Henry Ford. Coming together is a beginning, staying together is a process, and working together is a success. I'm sure the new officers and councillors will join IASP's leadership with lots of energy and commitment and engagement, and ensure IASP will successfully continue its development and meet future challenges. Before I hand over to Claudia, it has been my sincere pleasure and honor to serve IASP as the president. I hereby hand over the depeche to Claudia Summers, the new IASP president. Claudia, please.
Thank you, Lars. Hello, everybody, and thank you for being with us in your offices, your homes, and wherever you are. First, I want to say that it's really an honor to talk with you today as president of IASP. The society has been an important part of my life for a long time, and I'm very excited to take on this new role. And I would like to wholeheartedly thank everyone who helped me in my various IASP positions in the last years. I especially like to thank outgoing President Lars Arend Nielsen, who for the past 2 years has opened up a tremendous number of new fields for IASP, some of which you heard about in his speech. Next. This is for you, Lars. In appreciation for all your hard work and leadership over the past several years, we are presenting you with a gift card so that you and your wife can enjoy the lovely Roos Hotel, which is a historic seaside hotel with a renowned restaurant. Lars, we hope the two of you will enjoy some peace and quiet there soon, as well as a lovely meal. While you're visiting, we hope you will remember how very much we appreciate all your contributions.
Thank you very much.
Next, please. A few words about myself. I work as a professor of neurology and pain specialist at the University of Würzburg in Germany. My work is equally divided between patient care, research, and teaching. My main research interests are neuropathic pain, fibromyalgia, and the neuroimmune connection. Now you can see that for my own work, I'm especially happy about the new ICD-11 category of chronic primary pain, which helps us give a name and a voice to those who suffer from it. I do all this work with the help of a great team, and I'm proud and privileged to be part of national and international research consortia in these areas. I had leading roles in other societies like the German Pain Society, European Academy of Neurology, Peripheral Nerve Society, which makes me well connected and has prepared me for the challenging role at IASP. Next, please. My home base is Würzburg, a small but beautiful town, and the university and university hospital are very important parts of it. Next. I have been fortunate to serve in many different positions in IASP, so I have great appreciation for the society and for everyone who so generously shares their personal time and expertise to fulfill the organization's mission year after year. This also gave me the opportunity to learn about this great organization and to understand the variety of ways in which it serves its community. Being part of the Fellowship, Grants and Awards Working Group, I saw the great potential that young pain practitioners and researchers bring to our society, and I will come back to this in a minute. The other point I would like to address is the work of the Visual Identity Task Force. This is about how to even better communicate IASP's many activities to its members and to those who are interested in our activities. And I'm looking forward to sharing the new concept for our visual identity and the new homepage with improved membership interaction with you next year. Next. This is a weird time to take over an IASP presidency. Actually, Lars is the one who mostly had to adapt his plans and schedules on account of the pandemic. In fact, we are the first IASP presidents to give the final and inaugural speeches on this virtual channel. This already illustrates some of the challenges, but also opportunities that this unusual situation presents to us. Of course, everybody would prefer an in-person meeting to celebrate a successful previous IASP executive committee and to welcome a new one and new councillors. But on the other hand, many of you might not have been here and can only attend now that we have made this a virtual General Assembly. This is a good lesson for the future and will certainly shape many of our activities. As you have already seen, online activities are flourishing, and for the future, when in-person meetings will again be possible, we now have the technology in place to have hybrid meetings and thus to expand our outreach to an amazingly larger number of people. This is a great way to increase our diversity by including participants from all ages, countries, income levels that for one reason or other would not be able to travel. We will also work on the challenges that the pandemic and its restrictions have put on treatment of people in pain in the various regions, and Lars told you about the task force he has set up. Last but not least, we will have and will even more spread out the opportunity to learn, not only with the World Congress, but also with the many high quality activities in between. And the next, please. These images are supposed to show you that virtual learning does not need to be dry and monotonous, but that it can be almost like a real Congress and that interaction with your peers can take place. Please show the next image just to give us an idea. Right, and the next, please. The web-based Pain Education Resource Center, or PERC as we call it, is growing all the time. This is a great resource for IASP members who have full access to our virtual library of CME trainings, lectures, webinars, and a whole range of other learning materials spanning the spectrum of critical pain topics. For example, some of our newest webinars focus on opioid prescribing, palliative care, and the impact of pain on a global scale. Lars' efforts to build the PERC platform have been so important, as there is a significant need for continuing pain education, both for students and practitioners. Next, please. Our goal is to be the authoritative voice on all issues related to pain. This includes making statements to important and timely issues like opioids and cannabinoids. It also includes working with the WHO and with our chapters and federations to see to global and local needs and to establish working groups and task forces accordingly. A current example is the new task force on COVID-related problems in pain treatment. Another example is the planned task force that will gather the evidence and provide recommendations for multi-component pain management for specific pain conditions in ICD-11. One of the tasks very close to my heart is engaging the younger generation. And the next slide, please. As you know, we have a number of programs for students, trainees, and early career professionals. What I plan to implement during my term is a task force that will work on targeted programs that will give us the future leaders of IASP. Some ideas towards these goals are to imply a mentorship program, to offer targeted skills workshops, peer-to-peer mentoring, virtual and in-person meetings. We want our young members to have a voice in the future direction of the society, to have places on our committees, our working groups, and in council. And the next, please. Another important area of activities will be to follow up what Lars has done to strengthen our outreach to our global chapters and federations. Building on IASP's strong international ties, we will branch out even further into Africa, Latin America, and Asia to grow and strengthen our global presence and initiatives. We're also working to create partnerships with patient advocates and to better respond to the needs and interests of all people with lived experience of pain. I'm very happy that for all these plans, I have a strong IASP office by my side. Next, please. Now led by our new CEO, Colleen Eubanks, who fortunately already has been with us for some time, knows the organization, is an extremely dedicated, conscientious, and efficient leader of all our wonderful staff. And what you see here is the conference room that not usually was so empty, but it is now because everybody is working remotely, and this has been wonderfully organized by Colleen and the staff. And the next, with this, I thank you all for your dedication and service to IASP. I would like to recognize all of our devoted members and the many wonderful ways they have contributed to IASP. I look forward to working with you all in bringing the millions who are suffering in our world hope that life with less pain can be a reality. We encourage you to check out the IASP booth in our virtual series on Pain at Expo, check out our website and get an understanding of the variety of ways in which you might bring in your unique expertise to the society. Join one of the committees or task forces. You can learn about IASP there, send feedback on how we can improve as an organization, attend a webinar really, just to maximize your membership by getting as involved as possible. Thank you all for having taken part in this virtual assembly today. Next slide. Since it is difficult to have a discussion here in this format, here's the link for the question and answer session. Please send us your questions. We will do our best to answer them in a timely manner and to make them available for everybody that is interested. Thank you again, and have a good day wherever you are. And with this, I adjourn this virtual assembly of IASP.